Outlander has returned this week with episode 14 of season 7, and this one was definitely the episode that showed us the calm before the storm that's soon to be on the horizon. Focusing on the preparation for the Battle of Monmouth, Lord John being reunited with Jamie and Clare after going against the very promise that he made to his brother 3 years prior, and also William looking like he's in grave danger. There's a lot for us to get our teeth into. So with that, let's break down the episode and discuss everything that there was to take away from it. Here is Outlander Season 7 Episode 14, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Also, I just want to apologize for this video being a day later than usual. It's been extremely busy over the Christmas period, and I've only just got around to watching the episode today, so I am sorry about that. Anyway, onto the video. Lord John Grey. This episode started with us seeing Lord John Grey in 1775 in London, and we saw the different approaches that he and his brother had. Lord John wanted to opt for a route of peace in the war, and we saw that his brother Hal had more of a stern fist and wanted to punish the people of America for wanting the independence that they were fighting for. What was important about this scene was that we saw Lord John swear to his brother that he'd never accept the notion of American independence, but then as we saw in this episode, a couple of years later, he was now pledging his allegiance to the Continental Army and believing in that very notion. Lord John was being held as a prisoner by a militia of the Continental Army, and it was due to Jamie having 10 companies under him that Lord John ended up reuniting with his former friend. I thought Jamie was still being ridiculous and over the top about the whole situation. Saying things like how he could have him executed and waving his power around just made me frustrated with the character. Lord John was deeply sorry for what he did with Clare, and Jamie still hasn't found it within himself to forgive him, even after everything that the two of them have been through over the years. Lord John found out from Beauchamp, somebody who was in fact a French spy and was Lord John's stepbrother, that William was being used as a pawn in Captain Richardson's game. As he wasn't actually fighting for the British Army, he was a spy himself. Richardson wanted William's life to be held in the hands of Oberst Von Schnell so that Lord John and his brother Hal could be demanded into cooperating with the Continental Army. This is what ultimately led Lord John to be set free by Jamie, as Jamie wasn't prepared to abandon the 300 men that were fighting under him in order to save one, even if it was his son William. So it very much feels like Lord John is going to be going to Von Schnell with Ian and looking to rescue him. This could also be something that could repair Ian and William's relationship too. Jamie said the line to Lord John, "Go and rescue our son." This was a line that hit really hard because William was essentially both of their sons, and I feel like him being set free by Jamie was almost the rebuilding of their friendship. I could actually almost see a world where Lord John ends up being killed, if they do decide to drift from the books that is, and I feel like that would be an emotional route for the character to go down. Jamie. Within this episode, we saw that Jamie was putting his men through drills in preparation for the Battle of Monmouth, which was on the horizon. He saw through Ian that the British camp, which was led by Clinton, was extremely close to them, something that they didn't originally realise. Sir Henry Clinton was the general that led the British army in the Battle of Monmouth against Washington's Continental Army. Jamie was feeling the weight and pressure of having the 300 lives in the palm of his hand, and realising that he was the person that was responsible for ensuring that they made it back safely, and that he personally prepared them for battle in the best way possible. Moments such as him speaking with Private Shaftsall, getting to know him and giving him a musket, it showed that there was a human there, and that there was an actual life that he had to care for. There was a look on Jamie's face when he saw him later on in the episode where he smiled at them, and then as they walked off, his face turned to worry slightly. I think this was because he was feeling that pressure and responsibility, knowing that if they died, it would sit with him and he'd blame himself. The Battle of Monmouth is what's on the horizon, and this battle was the very thing in history that led to George Washington and the Continental Army taking Philadelphia and putting an end to the Philadelphia campaign. Despite the British Army being stronger in numbers, with them having 17,660 men and the Continental Army having 14,300, the Continental Army will reign victorious and cause Clinton's men to retreat from Philadelphia. Jamie and John did have some kind of reconciliation in this episode, but if it wasn't for William's life being in danger, then I still think he would have been on his high horse and not been prepared to look past what John and Clare did. William. William is a character that's really maturing in this season of the show, and we're seeing a really interesting side to him. We saw that he was letting his standards drop due to the weight of finding out that Jamie was his father and him not truly knowing who he was anymore. But Ariana, who was also known as Jane, arriving at the camp and seeking him out was something that gave him that level of grounding again. After their moments of intimacy a couple of episodes back, it always felt like she was going to appear later on because she did leave her mark on William. During this episode, we found out that Jane killed Captain Harknell following him going there and wanting to have his way with Jane's younger sister. This was the reason as to why she ended up finding William, because she had nobody else to go to and she knew that she'd be sent to the gallows if she were caught. She did end up telling William about what happened and he swore to not tell anybody else because he knew that she had her reasons for doing it. Something which showed that he does care deeply for her. He gave her money, set her up as somebody that would do the laundry, and was prepared to help her as much as possible. So I believe if William makes it back alive, his near-death experience might spur him on to actually be with her and give it a go properly. I thought it was kinda rich how Captain Richardson was telling William that he had his opportunity to re-earn his trust, when in reality, Richardson was the most untrustworthy person in camp. William is now in grave danger and he's outnumbered significantly, so I feel the soldiers are probably going to ambush him and hold him as a prisoner in the next episode. Bree. Bree's part of the story was one of the best to follow in this episode. We saw that the locksmith arrived at the house and they left a note following Bree not being there, which meant that she was no longer safe. She chose to not go into the house, and she was right to do so because Rob and a posse of people were there looking to find her, Jeremiah, and the location of the Jacobite gold. Following a close encounter after being rescued by Fiona and Ernie, we saw that she came to the decision that she needed to go through the stones to be with Roger, something which felt like it was on the horizon. Roger came to the conclusion in the previous episode that Jem might not have actually been in the time period that he was in. So he may well end up going back to the present day timeline and missing Bree completely. Something that would then add a spanner in the works for the trouble that they've been caught up in. One thing that confused me about Bree's part of the episode though was just how empty the roads were and how useless the police have been. Why was there nobody around to help them at all? My review of the episode. I thought this was a solid episode of the show. Like I said at the start of it, it definitely feels like the calm before the storm and the Battle of Monmouth is on the horizon for sure. Jamie's resentment for Lord John is something that I'm finding a bit childish and frustrating now though, because this is somebody that he once cared so deeply for. John pretty much raised William for him, and it's like he's forgotten all about it. So when they did reconcile a bit, it did make me happy. The scene where John was getting his eye fixed was one where I felt like I could feel the pain that he was in. When Claire said how she had to grab it, I was squirming on the inside because I could only imagine how uncomfortable that would have been. We didn't actually get anything of Roger and Buck in this episode, and I thought that was a shame because I do really enjoy seeing Roger's timeline and him searching for Jem. It looks like going back further is something that's going to have impacted the timeline of the future, so I'm intrigued to see how things could potentially change. Ian and Rachel's arc is something that I'm starting to lose a bit of interest in. I don't know why, but it's almost like now that they're married and together, their journey feels complete. So I'm hoping there's going to be some jeopardy added into the mix for them. This was a tame episode in terms of action, but I feel like the next episode, which is the penultimate one of the season, will be a big one for sure. We're building towards the end now, and the stakes are just getting higher and higher. So, there you have it. Outlander Season 7, Episode 14, Ending Explained. What did you think of this episode? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.